Let's talk about ARM-based CPUs today. Microsoft is investing big money in this architecture right now. They are building their own ARM-based CPUs. They support ARM CPUs on Windows too. So the question is, what about Xbox? Is future Xbox going to be using this technology too? And is ARM-based CPUs actually good for gaming? Let's look into this. But before we look into it, let's check iniba.com. They offer games for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo and PC, and they've got a ton of games on sale right now. Black Friday deals are great for them, that's for sure. So there's Black Friday deals, there's games up to 80% cheaper too, but it's Black Friday, so let's check these deals. By the way, you will get 15% cashback buying these games also. So there's Cyberpunk, there's Spider-Man. Yeah, let's go with Spider-Man. I mean, why not? So click on the game, select the cheapest option over here, which is this $22. Buy now. Obviously, you can, well, go to check out or continue shopping. So let's go to check out right now and proceed to check out. And all you have to do now is just select a payment of your choice and you are done. Guys, Black Friday is now, so check some of these deals. I'm sure you will find something interesting for yourself. Link is in the description of this video below. Okay guys, so let's talk about some technology news today. Arm64 based CPUs. That's what I really want to talk about today. Now, it's no secret that ARM based CPUs are pretty much everywhere. Okay, now not necessarily in high-end desktops or laptops or consoles, although some consoles actually do use these ARM-based CPUs too, by the way, Nintendo Switch for example. But generally speaking, if you ask somebody about which CPUs are better for gaming, Intel-based or generally speaking x86 or ARM CPUs, you know, everyone will tell you, oh, you know, x86 or x64, as some people call it now, is much better for gaming because these CPUs are much more performant. Now, obviously that's all true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that ARM-based CPUs are not good for gaming. Now, the reason I'm actually talking about it is because it looks like Microsoft is really pushing and investing a lot of money in ARM-based technology, right? Now, I'm not really going too much into the detail about like licensing for that technology and that kind of stuff, because I think some of it is free and many like open source, something like that, if I'm not mistaken, and many companies can use that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, same, I guess, with the architecture. Although there's some licensing going on between Intel and AMD and that kind of stuff, I'm not sure if the x86 architecture is kind of open. But anyway, it doesn't matter for this discussion, right? The fact of the matter is that like more and more devices are actually running on ARM CPUs, whether that's your phone or tablet or refrigerator. Yeah, I know it sounds funny, but that's the case. Automobile industry is using ARM-based CPUs a lot as well. Why? Because they are actually good for that kind of stuff, and they are low-power CPUs. You know, pretty performant for what these industries require, really, right? But the question is, are they even good for gaming? Because obviously the question I'm asking it right now is because like there's some rumors that maybe in future Xbox is going to be using ARM CPU as well. And this is not just some rumor from whoever, right? You know, the fact of the matter is that a couple of weeks ago, a big leak happened during the FTC trial. And in one of the documents, there was a phrase about next-gen Xbox, so the future Xbox that is coming at some point in the future, like 26, 28, I don't know. And there was a sentence basically saying that, you know, future Xbox is going to be about like hybrid gaming, blah, blah, blah. But also there were some sentences about the hardware, and one of them was about CPU, and they were kind of still debating whether to go with AMD's or x86 64 architecture or maybe Arm64 architecture, right? Now, I don't really want to get too technical. I mean, there are some significant differences between these two technologies, really, because ARM-based CPUs are RISC CPUs, so basically it's reduced instruction set CPU, basically, meaning that it has reduced set so basically of instructions, meaning that, for example, some instructions may take longer for the CPU to do because it may have to use a number of cycles to process an instruction, something like that, right? So that's why back in the days, RISC CPUs were very well suited for like industry kind of solutions where you don't necessarily need all-purpose kind of CPU like Intel or AMD's one, but also RISC CPUs are way more power efficient. So obviously, in terms of just pure power, performance, and usability and that kind of stuff for gaming, I guess these x86, so Intel AMD CPUs are better. But at the same time, we are actually seeing more and more devices running on RISC CPUs, playing games, no problem, mobile phones. But even recently, if you look at what Apple is doing, yes, all their devices right now, new devices, are running on their own, Bionic A15, whatever, chips. Right, so it's a SoC system on the chip, but like the CPU part of it is based on, yes, ARM technology, Arm64 if I'm not mistaken. So obviously, Arm64 is better than 32 because it has like a wider registry, so it can process better math and that kind of stuff. But I think like Apple kind of did proven that these CPUs are good enough for gaming, and really, like, I wouldn't even go with that much, because the problem with Apple not CPUs but chips, is that it's a system on the chip. So you've got some CPU cores, some GPU cores, like 10 or something, and unfortunately these chips don't come with big GPU portion, right? It's not like PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X that has thousands of these GPU cores, right? Like that's not really the case on Mac. Well, maybe some top-end Mac, I don't know, I didn't really check really. But my point is that a lot of times these games don't really run that great because of the GPU portion of it, not necessarily CPU. And in many games I've seen, these CPUs actually doing pretty good job, right? So what I'm actually saying is that if Microsoft is building their own chips already, obviously they can build their own chip in the future, or at least CPU part of it, which would be more actually cheaper for them. And also, actually, these chips, these Arm64 based CPUs would actually suit consoles pretty well because they are low power. And we all know that these smaller boxes are always, designing these consoles. They, engineers have to be very wary of the power budget constraints. I'm talking about electricity and the wattage and that kind of stuff. Not like, the more, because yes, you can build a very powerful CPU, but that will be big and expensive, but that's not what the console is all about, right? So not only these cores would be, not necessarily smaller in size, but maybe they would be, because there's it's a RISC processor, less instructions, I guess. But at the same time, they are also more power efficient. So, better for cooling the system, that kind of stuff, more reliable, I guess. So I think that instruction set that is in these CPUs is more than good enough, I guess, especially after all the latest updates for gaming. So I would not be surprised if Microsoft went with a RISC CPU next generation. Now, the only my concern is the compatibility, because really, actually, it's funny. I will actually have to double check, but wasn't PowerPC CPUs based on ARM's architecture too? So if that's the case, I will have to double check that. Sorry, that's just a thought that just came through my mind. I got that sometimes, right? Because Xbox 360, because first Xbox was Intel based, right? x86 architecture. Then Xbox 360, also PlayStation 3, both were PowerPC based. And if I'm not mistaken, PowerPC was a RISC CPU too. Don't quote me on that. I will have to double check. I mean, they were not x86, that's for sure. Anyway, but then Xbox One, Xbox One X, now series consoles, they are all x86. So I guess for backwards compatibility, I don't know how that would work, right? I mean, we do have Macs. So let's go back to Apple. They do, because Apple devices, Apple overall switched from Intel-based CPUs to their own ARM-based CPUs like chips, right? And you can still run, for example, Intel-based games on Mac. That's no problem there. They are using some form of backwards compatibility kind of software. It's called Reseta. It's actually not too bad either. So, you can translate these instructions, no problem there. And, these games actually run pretty well, like still limited by the GPU, don't get me wrong. But, backwards compatibility, software backwards compatibility probably would solve it, no problem there. So that I'm just saying, right? So generally speaking, it's interesting concept. I will have to dig deeper into it and see how that goes. But like I said, there's more and more ARM-based devices. Nintendo Switch is an ARM-based device. The ARM Switch 2 is going to be ARM-based too. So the SoC that NVIDIA is preparing for them, they will be using the Arm64, I presume 64, that would make sense, ARM-based CPU cores for that chip too. So yeah, guys, listen, I would say that generally speaking, there's more ARM-based devices all over the world than x86. And they are just great. And, there is this kind of open source to it, which I will have to dig deeper into it, see how that goes. But like I said, everyone can create this, micro architecture. They can build their own chips based on that, just like Microsoft did. They announced their own server chips based on ARM architecture for the server farms, right? Everyone does that. NVIDIA is building their own chips using ARM2 SoCs for Nintendo. I think AMD is actually investigating that too. As far as I know, they haven't created one just yet, but hey, who knows? Maybe RISC-based CPUs are actually the future. We'll see. They may not be as performant as the x86 architecture, but you know what? Hey, the consoles we've got at home right now, our homes, well, they are using a laptop-based CPUs anyway. So yeah, they are not as performant as the high-end PC CPUs, right? So, I wouldn't really worry about that, right? As long as the game can run at 60, I'm totally fine with it. And to be honest with you, more and more tasks are being handled by GPU these days anyway. So that's been the thing since like Xbox One, PlayStation 4. So yeah, they've got these compute units there and that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.